Human nature is the same, so we're all dealing with the same things and the solutions are the same.
Somehow we think that we have to hold into burning coals in our hands, and that somehow makes us special. We think that that somehow makes us different.
Being in the process of always trying to improve on yourself, that's not being.
You have identified as someone who's working on themselves. There's nothing wrong with working on yourself. There's nothing wrong with virtues. There's nothing wrong with philosophy. But to identify with something, no matter what it is destruction.
I have a few questions, and they're not related to the question of the week. It's sort of just something I've been pondering on my own. So it has to do with self-consciousness and purposely choosing to be unconscious. So just for more context, I'm a very conscious person. I try to be, at least. Of course, with this channel really helps, and reading philosophy on my own has been a really great addition to my life. But lately, I've been experiencing that I've been purposely choosing to be unconscious, like not meditating in the morning or not journaling to reflect how I feel on something. So turning to watching more TV or reading less or just engaging in worse habits. And I just wanted to ask you about sort of why we as humans fundamentally choose to be unconscious when we know that that's a consequence, and when we know how to be conscious. Even though, I don't know, I feel like this is a great example. I was at a party last night and everybody was getting drunk around me. I don't drink, so I was completely sober the whole time because, I don't know, I just don't like the idea of being unconscious, which is why I don't drink. But then when I got home, instead of going to bed when I felt super tired, I felt like not doing that. So I decided to stay up and play on my phone. And then I realized, wait a minute, is that not the same thing as all these people getting drunk to avoid some sort of feeling? I'm doing the same thing, but just in a different form. So I just wanted to ask you about that.
So your question is, why do we choose to go unconscious sometimes?
Yes, intrinsically, I understand it's probably because of a sort of fear that we have in the, let's call it the 3D of the world. But why do we do it if we still know that it's bad for us, or if we know that being conscious is the best thing for us?
But how is it bad for you?
Because I didn't want to stay up on my phone. I wanted to go to bed, but of course I didn't listen to my more conscious self.
That more conscious self is the ego,
Hmm.
because it's not you. You can't talk to you, right?
Yeah, but wouldn't you say that it's okay? Because I've noticed when my friends and we kind of share what we feel when we meditate together. And I've noticed a pattern when we all meditate, all the things that are sort of bad for us, we engage in less. So I thought that meditating was a way to connect to your more better self, conscious self. But I didn't realize it was connected to the ego.
Because look, the ego is going to try to put you back to unconsciousness in whatever way it can, right? With you, for example, you mentioned drinking. With you, drinking doesn't work. If the ego told you, oh, just take one sip, like this is a very fine liquor, right? This is good. It's really, really precious, very expensive. Your friend has some, they're offering it to you. What's going to happen from one sip? You know exactly what's going to happen from one sip, right? And you don't even want. So that's not what the ego then would try with you. You are someone who values the love of wisdom, philosophy, right? And of course, there's nothing wrong with philosophy. And you value the virtues. And of course, there is nothing wrong with the virtues. But philosophy, the virtues, the highest good, that which you know is best for you, has never shamed you, has never admonished you for not doing it enough. It has never blamed you. It has never expected anything from you. It was always there as a friend, and it gave you new insights. And when you didn't need it or want it or couldn't have it or had something else to do or were sleeping, it never sat there looking at you with expectations and silently judging you, or not so silently. It's never done any of that. So that within you, which has disguised itself as the higher you, the conscious you, the you that knows what's best for you, is trying to trick you again, because that's what works with you. You value awareness, virtues, philosophy, working on yourself. And so the ego knows that. And the more it can get you into shame, into guilt, into resentment towards yourself somehow, because the resentment comes from the ego, not from you, the more you will go into true unawareness, true unconsciousness. There's nothing wrong with, again, there's nothing inherently wrong with being on your phone. It depends on what you're doing, right? And sometimes you're a human being. If this is not a behavior, if it's not an addiction, if it's not a problem, you choosing, especially after something as disruptive, as unusual in your day as going to a party, perhaps, to choose to spend the remainder of the night or of the time instead of sleeping doing that, it's not necessarily a problem. But it's all that the ego has. It says, oh, that's not virtuous. That's not the best use of your time. That's not efficient. You should be ashamed of yourself. You might as well give up now. And again, this is the ego doing it. That's what's works with you. And clearly it does, right? Because you're here now occupied with that. And not just here, obviously. You're probably 24/7 thinking about, oh, I'm slipping up. I'm reading less. I'm writing less. I'm less engaged in the work of life. And so now I'm doing worse. I used to do pretty good. I used to do bad. Now I'm doing worse. That's a narrative. And all narratives are fiction. Even when they are true, they're fiction, based on a true story, but they're fiction. And fiction is illusion. And illusion is false. And the ego is the false self. It has created a false self. It has given itself strength through what you value. And even this might sound, oh no, the ego is winning, or it's developing, or it's growing back again. I used to have it so small and now it's growing. Nope. It's okay. That's a narrative too. It's okay. There's no danger whatsoever. There's no danger to the light from the darkness. There's no danger to awareness from the unawareness. There truly isn't. Especially because you're aware of it. And you don't let it just pass. You come and speak to people, whether it's here or somewhere else, or to yourself in your journal or in your reading. You're not going to let it pass. You're not going to let it do this. Because you're realizing what's going on. You might have not seen it yet as the ego, but you would have come to that realization. And so all you have to do now is realize what's going on. And I always say, and we all know this, identities run deep and wide. Okay. You have identified as a philosopher, as a lover of wisdom, in other words. You have identified as someone who's working on themselves. You have identified as a virtuous person. And again, there's nothing wrong with working on yourself. There's nothing wrong with virtues. There's nothing wrong with philosophy. But to identify with something, no matter what it is destruction. And you've identified with these things clearly. Otherwise, this wouldn't be happening to you right now, because you're experiencing resentment, you're experiencing frustration, you're experiencing bitterness, disappointment, perhaps. And that, as we always talk about, the emotions are an excellent signpost. Before your intellect knows, your intuition knows that something's going on. And it knows that by observing the emotion, which are external to you. They're not you, but they come to you as the ego soldiers, so to speak. And so just like any other good general army person, we want to watch out for that. I see the enemy coming. Okay. But in the realm of ideas, rather than the physical realm, such as things as war, there's no such thing as getting your soldiers ready and then going into battle and then hoping that you will win and etc. No, seeing the enemy is the defeat of the enemy. They're uncovered, they're uncloaked, so it's over. And so you saw anger, you saw bitterness, you saw resentment, you saw disappointment, and so now you're here talking about it. And of course, again, to yourself, just because you're aware of it. So you've seen the enemy, it's over. Just carry it to the end by seeing not only that this is the ego, but that you have identified with something that you need not identify with. The virtues don't require you to identify with them. Truth, justice, goodness does not need you to say, oh, I am you. I've made myself one with you. I worship you. I am you. Everything that can harm you can harm me. I am in your service. You are my idol. They don't want you to say that. They're telling you the exact opposite. Make nothing an idol. That very much includes themselves, of course. So don't idolize that way of living. Don't idolize working on yourself. Don't idolize the virtues. The virtues are telling you not to idolize. So the ego will work with whatever it has, okay? It's almost a little bit of a flex for you to come here and say, I'm working on myself so much, my ego is using that. I know you're not actually doing that, I'm just kidding. But you have progressed in a way so far that the ego is not using your ambition, your pride, your anger, all these things that your greed, your jealousy, your envy, your need for revenge, it cannot use those things anymore. Those things are gone. And they could come back, so you have to watch out, but they're gone. So it's using these things, it's using virtue itself to get you out of virtue. What a desperate thing to do. But that's where the ego is at. It's desperate. So, and when it's desperate, it can be very dangerous as well, right? Because the very thing that is getting you out of the ego, now the ego is working to become one with. So that when you hold on to the virtues and you let go all else, you will also be holding on to the ego still, because the ego is holding on to the virtues. So make that further separate. See that. And as soon as you see that, you will slice the ego off that as well and just take the virtues. Does that make sense?
Yes, that actually makes so much sense, because it felt like a battle between it felt like the ego is trying to hold on to everything it can to try to make me believe that I should identify with a certain state of mind, which is why it felt so unfamiliar to me, and like such a loop that I felt that I couldn't get out of, because yeah, like because I'm so conscious of it. Like I was just wondering, how is this still? Why am I still choosing to do this if I'm conscious of it? But the way you described it makes so much sense. I did not think it was the ego. I thought it was my lack of discipline or lack of willpower or
That's
something.
exactly what the ego is when you think it's not the ego, right? Because
Yeah.
when you know it's the ego, it's already over, isn't it? Isn't it over for you right now?
Yes.
Exactly. So the ego's only hope is to make it seem like it's not the ego and there's actually a problem. There's something going on and you're slipping off and you're falling away. But recognize those patterns. The ego uses different things depending on where you are at, right? But the methods are the same. The methods are always there's an external problem, right? These people or these situations in my life or something that is happening to me, I don't even know what it is. It makes me want to read less, write less, and do all the things that I know are good for me that have brought me so far. So there's a problem, there's an issue. I don't know what's happening. I don't know what's going on. It's the ego. And as soon as you see it, it's over. And this is, as I always say, this is not a regression. This is not you falling back into the ego. This is you progressing because the ego is now using different things, meaning we're moving forward. And so this is the next thing that we need to not even overcome, just let go, because identities run wide and deep, as I said, and identities live in unawareness. As soon as you shine a light on them, ego and identity, same thing, right? As soon as you shine a light on them, they disappear. We just shone a light on them, they're gone. They're already gone. There's no more work to be done. There's not you now for the next 4 weeks trying to solve this mess that you just realized is there. No, it's already gone just now. So as soon as you shine a light on the identities, they're gone. Now, this identity was always there. It was always there. It's just the ego had easier things to work with. So it was doing those things to you. And since you've gotten rid of those, now it's reaching for a different set of identities, different set of tools, right? And so this is a joyous occasion for you to say, thank you, anger, thank you, resentment, which all come from the ego. So ultimately, thank you, ego, for showing me that in the darkness, which apparently there still was some darkness, there were hiding, as they do, identities in the shadow. And so thanks to your, once again, trying to overtake me, I am now aware of these things. And without you, I probably, or maybe, would never have been. What a friend the ego is. And so this is how to make use of everything. This is how to love everything. This is how to thank everything, appreciate everything, have gratitude for everything. Even the so-called bad things, you can turn around and turn into things that you can make use of to advance even further. And this is what this is. And it's funny, I feel like I have been going through the same thing. I realized the other day, I talked about that I'm dealing with imagination right now, trying to discern what it is truly so I can either let go of it or invest in it even further, because then it's a good thing and I want more of it, right? But so I'm right now dealing with that. And that too sort of has put me in a space where I'm reading less, writing less, and doing all these things less. And I also saw the other day that maybe a few weeks ago, was having a bit of resentment towards that. It's like, I want to read again, but it's totally me deciding to deal with this imagination thing, which might be imaginary, right? I'm sort of contemplating maybe this is a trick. But as soon as you contemplate that, as soon as you fear that or resent that, that is also the ego at work. So I'm just taking it easy, just taking it slowly. But I'm just saying there was a parallel there with me too, realizing I'm reading less, writing less, I'm doing all the things less that I know are good for me, which made me realize the same thing that we're talking about now, that's just another trick. There is no problem. Everything is okay. And So I wondered, well, if I have this resentment, if I have this bitterness, if I have this anger towards my current situation of reading less, writing less, etc., what is my identity then? Because I know, I keep telling you, and so I tell myself too, I know whenever I have anger, resentment, fear, anything like that, there's an identity at play, there's ego at play. So, but I'm clearly not aware of it, otherwise it wouldn't be happening. So what is that identity? And I think I came to the conclusion, and it dissolved a lot of things, and that's why I know it must have been there, was my identity was the person who was working on himself. It was always a thing that I was doing, and I'm progressing, and I'm getting better, however you want to define better, and I'm moving along and along. And now that I have the privilege of just sitting around and thinking about imagination and all the other things that are so in the realm of ideas, is nothing physical, nothing threatening me. I never come home sad, or I hardly experience any fear anymore. I love everyone in the sense that we talk about here in our way of thinking about love. And I realized, wow, it's my identity to always have something to work on. And so now that I don't really have any problems left, I couldn't be the person who has finally nothing to work on, and to just be, at least for a while, to just experience peace rather than the battle of getting better. And so as soon as I realized that, wow, everything's okay, everything's fine. I don't need to be that anymore. I don't need to be the person who's struggling for a good cause, working on themselves. I have worked enough on myself to be able to have peace now. And so my identity of me working on myself kept me from peace, because a person who's working on themselves is not yet at peace, right? They're striving, they're getting there, they're almost there, whatever. But when they're finally there, they don't know what to do with themselves, because they're supposed to be a person who's working on themselves, who's figuring things out. And so even that's an identity. And so as soon as I let go of that, I've just been experiencing a lot more of just being rather than doing. I'm just being in whatever situation. Oh, now I'm driving my car. Okay, I'm being that, doing that. Or I'm here now. We're being in kinship. We're not doing kinship. This is not something on our to-do list. If it is, that's an issue. That's not something you want. You don't want to be in the doing mode. You want to be in the being mode. And so a person who's doing this right now will look at the clock, how much longer, or vice versa. They'll say, oh, I hope this never ends, because this is what I want to be doing, and I dread the next thing I have to do on my list, whatever it may be, good or bad. But if you're just being here, then there's no rush, no fear, no anger, no this or that. You're just being. And that's peace. Doing is not peace. There's no doing in peace. There's only being. And you mentioned meditation. I was made aware of that too. That a lot of people do meditation. They are not being in meditation. And that's an issue, because if meditation, or for those who don't meditate, but perhaps they're praying in their religion, that's their form of union, their form of realizing the oneness of everything, then saying, oh, now I'm going to pray, I'm going to do praying, is wrong, because then it's something that's set apart from your life. It's just, once again, something you're doing, something you're putting on your to-do list, and you're getting it done. And then what's next, and what's next, and what's next. And there's no peace in that, because you're constantly living in the future. Saying, I'm going to do meditation now, and then I'm going to do that, and I'm going to meet a friend, and I'm going to go to a party, and then you're just constantly doing, and meditation is just one of those things. Praying is just one of those things. It's not right. And then, funny enough, and see, everything comes together because everything is one. remembered that, hearing about that, what Jesus said. I think Jesus said it. It's in the Bible anyway. It says, pray without ceasing. Pray without ceasing. What does that mean? If prayer was something that you go like this and you pick a special time and place and you say, Dear Lord, please this and that and this and that and save this and that and all that, you can't be doing that without ceasing. That doesn't make sense. You know, like in church, you can't do that 24/7. So why is he telling people to pray without ceasing? It's because that's not what praying is. Praying is without words. Because when you're praying, you're the way that most people pray, it's essentially you're giving God or the universe, whatever you want to call it, a list of things to do. It's like, I know better. That's why I wish for these things. Do this, don't do that, and all that. So what you're saying is you know better than God, which is truth. So you know better than truth. You know better than reality. Does that make any sense? Is that what you're supposed to be doing 24/7? No. But that is what we do 24/7, whether in prayer or out of prayer. We're constantly expecting and we're constantly judging because we have been expecting. And so when things come about the way that we expected them to do, then we say, okay, this is right. This is good. That's a judgment. And so then we feel pride or we're elated or we're whatever. And as it happens most of the time, things don't come about as we expected them, demanded them of God, of reality to be without even knowing. Then what are we? We're dejected, we're angry, we're bitter, we're frustrated because we have a narrative in our heads. But to pray is to be, and to be is to be just the way things are. When you can wish for things to happen exactly as they do happen, that is true prayer. And that kind of prayer doesn't need special hands, doesn't need a special building, doesn't need a special time. It doesn't need to be in a special position with your eyes closed, saying a mantra or this or that. It's a state of being. And you just be, and you observe, and you said, this comes about, okay. Oh, instead of this, that, all right. There's no good or bad. There's no judgment in that because you didn't have any expectation. Your expectation is that it comes about exactly as it is coming about right now. Not as it should, could, would have been, should have been. But as it really is happening. If you wish for that, and you always wish for that, that's praying without ceasing. And that's meditating without ceasing, so to speak. But if you're doing meditating yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, didn't mean to cut you off
No.
there. Just wanted to mention, you making that distinction is so powerful. Truly, I forgot how much suffering we really make up in our own minds. So thank you. I feel like by you explaining being versus expecting, or being in the process of always trying to improve on yourself, that's not being. And I completely forgot that, because that way it feels like you're always in a work of process. You're always working on something, which is like you're expecting a destination. And I realized that your journey sort of is the destination. Like, because once I've done something and then received the desired outcome, for some reason I'm not that satisfied as I would imagined it would be in my head. In my head, the picture of the desire was a lot more, I don't know, it just seemed a lot better than how it was in reality. So the next time that this happens again, what you propose is to just sit and analyze and basically disidentify with the good and the bad, right? Because you mentioned how the good can be masked as the ego. So just so I understand, you said to disidentify with anything, right? Any sort of state of being and just be, right?
Yeah, because it's not required of you to identify with anything at all. If you're just being, there's no problem. All you have to do, and see, a person who, see, language fails here. A person who bees rather than does is going to notice patterns. You're going to notice within you a voice or whatever, a narrative coming up. You used to be like this, you're slipping up. That's a narrative. That's a story, beginning, middle, end, right? You used to be like this, you're slipping up, it's going to end in misery. That's beginning, middle, and end. That's a story. That's a narrative. You're going to see that, oh, that's a narrative. And we know where narratives come from. So, and just like you dissolved a bunch of identities just now by shining a light on it, that narrative is going to dissolve too as soon as you see it. If you're a person who is in a being mode rather than a doing, because a doing mode is this, whatever's in front, and then the next thing, and then what's next, and then what's next, always in the future. But if you're just being, you're not overwhelmed. You're just, one thing comes, another thing, oh, I see a pattern in that. And you discern it as right or wrong, right? There's the presence of a narrative that's wrong, objectively. No emotion behind it. It's just with my reason I can see that's wrong. Every time fear has told me anything, ego, through the identities, whatever you want to call it, it was a lie. I know that. I've seen it a million times. And so as soon as I see it again, I know what it is. Only when we are unaware does that slip by, goes to the back of your head, becomes a belief, and you operate through that. But if you're aware, if you're being, you see it coming, you don't let it in, and it never goes any further than that. And even if it does go further than that, at some later point you can still become aware that that happened and it's in you, and just take it and pull it out, right? So there's no problem. Oh, I slipped into unawareness. Oh no, that's terrible. I do that all the time, and I thought I was getting better, and now there's the narrative again. It's okay. That you're realizing that you have been unaware for however long, let it be 15 years, means that you are aware now. And so all is well now. And so keep it that way. But again, you slipped off. Okay, fine. That you realize you slipped off means you're back again. So everything's all right again. And so there's no problem to stress out. And you will just, of course, there are things to do and things not to do, but you don't need to be stressed out by that. You're not going to be overwhelmed by that, because it's one thing at a time, in awareness and being. And you're just going to discern things and put them in the right order. And the more you do it, the more it's going to happen, and the easier it's going to be, right? I imagine. I'm not saying I'm there, but the more I see that, the more I can see that that's how it goes. And so it's all fine. So what? Breathe a little less for a little bit, whatever. Who knows? In a month, you might read more and write more and have more realizations and work on yourself more than you've ever had. Who knows? But that's an expectation too. That's a narrative. You don't need to have it. I'm just saying, if you're playing that game, you can see that part of it too. But again, let go of the whole game. You don't need to put that against that. Just let go of the whole thing. Right? Does that make sense?
Yes, 100%. I think I was searching for an answer like this for a few weeks, and then now I'm realizing that it was sort of in me already the whole time. I just needed to see that. But thank you for answering my question. That was really my only question for today, and I'm going to think about this. Actually, no, I'm not, because I'm not going to identify with it. But I'm just going to let go, but I will take into consideration everything that you said, because I fully agree. So And thank you, by the way, for sharing about your personal experience. As I for some reason feel that most have also in a way been experiencing that, just in their own ways. But yeah, this was very enlightening. So thank you, Atesh.
We're all dealing with the same things. It's all the same thing. There's no difference. Human nature is the same. So we're all dealing with the same things and the solutions are the same, which is good news, right? So do you have an answer to the question of the fortnight, which is, can you name a good emotion?
That's a very deep question. I'd say good. I mean, I would say happiness, but again, that's sort of an identity. Well, I don't think emotion is something that can be named. I think it's a state of being. So what? I don't know. Whatever makes a person feel that sort of emotion, like it's. I don't know. I would say it depends on the person. I don't think I would choose a single word because it's not relating it. I feel like to our conversation, it's not something to do. It's just a form of being. I
Happiness is
hope
a
it makes
form of
sense.
being, or what?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd say so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if you were referring to emotions as a state of being or happiness as a state of being.
Oh, I meant happiness. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I see that way too. That's why when people say, "Oh, I want to feel happy," or talking about happiness as an emotion, I don't understand that. Because happiness is a state of being, right? And that state of being is peace. And so it's not an emotion to me. And that's what. And it's deceptively simple question, right? Can you name a good emotion? Happiness. Well, happiness is not really an emotion. I'm just realizing. So what else? I don't know. It becomes difficult. And so, and yeah, that's the only thing. I just wanted to get our minds going that way because so many people are defending emotions to us, right? Everyone is telling us to be emotional. And we can think of so-called bad emotions easily, no problem, right? Can make a list of 15 right now. But when you say, so if we're supposed to be so emotional and it's so great, what's a good emotion, right? Otherwise, why hang on to it for the bad emotions? That's not why we're hanging on to it. So there must be something good about it, which I'm fully open to receive. And that's why the question of the fortnight, right? What can you name a good emotion? So we're currently exploring that. So thank you for your answer, which is pretty similar to what I experienced when I first thought of it. And so I will put you back to the audience. Thank you once again for being so open and honest and sharing that, because while it might seem personal, it really isn't, because we're all dealing with the same things as we probably have seen in this conversation. And so in a way, it's not at all personal, but it still takes a lot of vulnerability, honesty, openness to share it and to talk about it like just like a factual experience, because we attach emotions to these things because it's narratives, because it's identities and all that, and then we recede into ourselves, and no good comes from that. And so it's a very much a human victory in the right, good, and proper sense to open up about these things and to share them with people so that we can discuss them and learn from each other's experiences. And like I said, the experiences are the same and the solutions are going to be the same. And so I will invite our next speaker.
How are you doing? It's my first time.
I'm doing well. How are you? Thank you for being here.
I'm well. Overall, the last conversation uh, contained a lot of the information from which I was going to talk with you, or at least what I had in mind. Because in the last 3 weeks, uh, I guess in the most physical sense, I got sick and my grandma's got very sick and we were at the hospital. So reading and writing made me get in contact with certain ideas that really brought me peace. And I wouldn't want to call that it proves to someone, like in a certain way that it has to prove the argument, but um, it made me see that really there is no fighting. And there was one point when I sort of wondered in the question of why do I fear death? Why do I fear sickness? And even if I was in very intense pain, somehow there was that coincidence of events that I was feeling a lot of physical pain. That somehow a part in all of this is at peace, is at rest. So somehow we think that we have to hold into burning coals in our hands as an illusion, and that somehow makes us special. We think that that somehow makes us different. But I asked myself, can you stop holding the coal? Can you stop seeing yourself burning? And it is possible. But then the last week I stopped reading and I stopped writing in the same degree, and it was the same thing that you just mentioned about the ego, about how we sort of build an identity of the person that sort of has to discern these things. And uh, overall, I think I'm still working on this, and I have a lot of things to work on this to understand more about what is the intention and how the intention somehow stays in stillness. It's not something that I guess it really changes. It has been always the same thing. It has been somehow the pursuit of peace, and we might get into the game that to pursue peace we have to keep on adding layers or keep on seeing many layers so we build peace when somehow it instead lies behind and it's reached by removing the layers. And I don't know if you have experienced this in yourself, but at least I I hope this reminds anyone about how important it is to examine ourselves.
What you're saying is truly amazing, and I think we're all have experienced that, are experiencing that, will experience that perhaps. And the most important thing to remember, as you are essentially saying, is to see that there is no deadline. There's no pressure. There's no expectation by that which we are trying to achieve on us. In other words, like you said, we're trying to get to peace. Peace doesn't expect you to get there at a certain time, in a certain way, by doing certain things, by proving things to others, to yourself. It doesn't say you have to manage to do that by this certain age or this certain time. For peace, there is no time. There is no age. Peace has always been there, again, as you said. It underlies everything. Under every challenge, under every turbulence, under every situation, there's peace. It's always there. It's always under it. We put things on top of it. Just like you said, when you were sick, that was a time where you could have put your sickness above on top of peace and thereby obscure it. But then you saw, no, that would be me doing it, not it actually happening or having to happen that way. It would be me doing it. And why would I do that? And so there's no pressure. There's no deadline. There's no rush. There's nothing to prove to anyone, very much so including yourself. I think that's the theme for today, where we're constantly thinking, oh, but I used to be better at this. And so if I don't do it in the same way, that means that I'm better, I am worse, whatever. That's proving or disproving something constantly to oneself. It's not necessary and it's not right. And so if we remember that, I think it applies to every single challenge, every single situation, whether it's sickness or, literally anything. We just say, it's okay. This is not an obstacle to that. This is not an obstacle to the ultimate goal, which we already have achieved because it's underneath everything, which is peace. And so I guess it's a matter of perspective, right? To just retain that no matter what happens, to never give all of your attention away to anything other than this, and to retain some of it always, at least, on this fact, which is truth with a capital T. Truth doesn't expect, truth doesn't demand, truth does not discriminate, truth does not separate, truth does not judge, right? It does not make narratives. It does not shame. It does not blame. It is not jealous. It doesn't ask for sacrifice. Nothing. But yet those are always what we call problems. It asks this of me. It makes me prove this. And so if I fail to deliver the proof, the sacrifice, the whatever, then I can't have the highest good, which is peace, which is happiness, which is whatever you want to call it. That's not true. It's just not true. So thank you for reminding us of that. Was there anything else you wanted to say or share or ask?
Maybe an answer for the question of the fortnight.
Absolutely. So the question of the fortnight, which we call fortnight because it changes every 2 weeks, and that's what a fortnight is. It's 14 nights, apparently. That's where the word comes from. The question is, can you name a good emotion?
Okay, so the first thing that I was working on, I think, is related to who says that it is good or who says that it is a bad emotion. I remember a quote from Emerson that I think I will be paraphrasing it, and I'm not being very uh, good with memory lately, but it was, are you not aware that you are not allowed if you are not equally willing to be prevented? And I'm not sure if this is what he meant by this, but at least every single time that I have been in the possibility of being angry, of being fearful, of being ambitious, of desiring, of giving into any vice, I've also been granted the freedom of not doing so. Uh, Everyone, I think, every single human being has that freedom. And if it is good or bad, I think it in my exploration goes more to what you see reasonable to be. In my case, I see no reason in giving into any of the emotions that I mentioned. To see their nature gets you to understand uh, their role, probably, or their properties. And many of the times, I just say, um, it's not it. I think that is really tiny. It's really, really small. So therefore, I won't say it is good or bad, but I would say that their presence has made me aware of what I don't want and has made me aware of searching for what I want. And I want to love. I don't want to just focus on the outcome of anything that I am pursuing or desiring. Instead, it's about the beautiful and pure and also natural intention that relies in our bodies. Mm, I wonder why we keep on chasing something that is always inside of us. Somehow identities offer like the mechanisms and the tools. At least they pretend that they are the tools to change something, to see a difference in the physical world. And even I've tried to uncover that also in the spiritual world, they try to offer that. But go back and uncover their nature, and you will see that they are not necessary. They are not needed. Instead, I guess, uh, what is the thing that is needed? And at least that's what I can say from the question. And for 1 week more, I guess I will be exploring it. Uh, so thank you for asking that question.
Thank you for answering that question. That was amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. Um, I can only I could only echo that. There's nothing to add to that. You're so right. The identities which cannot function without the uh, emotion as their driving force are not necessary, to say the least, as you have said. And thank you for that. I want to leave it right there because I want to just have people focus on all the things you said, which were amazing. So you're a first time speaker. Have you been in the server for a while, or did you just join?
I think I joined in November, but started watching your videos in August or September from last year, and I am very grateful for the beautiful things that you've shared and from which I have got in contact. Um, I speak Spanish as my main language, and trying to find the books that you share in the Spanish in that translation is sometimes really difficult. Uh, I end up finding some very old books from Emerson and Seneca uh, back in October, and now I bought the Emerson book and the Letters and Ethics from Seneca. It's amazing, truly amazing, and somehow it's something that you already know. It's I think something you've said. It's about unlearning. Learning is remembering that uh, you already know many of these things, and it's really in our hearts and in our will to do what we tend to call the right things. So really grateful for every single human being in this Discord community, and for you, I am very grateful.
And I am very grateful that you are here, because why you are calling this place amazing is because of you. You would not be interested in this place if you didn't see those things that you value in it. And by seeing it and by thereby wanting to be a part of it, you are exactly the reason why someone such as yourself would ever be attracted to such a place. And so when I say it's truly not me or any other person individually that makes this place whatever it is, I really well and truly mean it, because it's every single person in here, both individually as well as a group, that makes this place what it is. And we are building this collective experience and accumulated knowledge that we can all benefit from, that we could never come up with ourselves or as one person. And so you are the very openness, honesty, you know, dedication to truth that you are seeing in this place, and that you see yourself benefiting from, you are giving right back just by being here. So thank you very much for speaking for the first time. And needless to say, but I'm going to say it for sure anyway, you are very, very welcome here, generally in the server, but also in every kinship. And I wish you well, and I hope, without any expectation whatsoever, and hope is not even the right word, we'll find a better word someday, somehow, that you will come back, perhaps share more things, if you so wish. And if you don't, again, no hard feelings whatsoever, because I know you're out there, I know your nature, and I'm glad you exist. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you share these things. I'm glad you're engaged in the things that you were speaking about. And you've already given the very best thing to yourself. There's nothing you need of anyone else. And this place you are in, I know for a fact you are here not because you need it, but because you want it. And there's nothing wrong with just wanting to be among kin, which is what this is. And so thank you very much for everything you said. I'll move you back to the audience for now. Thank you for your answer to the question of the fortnight. Thank you for every single other thing you shared, which is so universal, timeless, exactly what we're trying to be engaged in here. And so therefore it's invaluable. Thank you so much. And so I will invite our next speaker.
Hi,
Hi,
how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm okay. So my answer concerning the question of the fortnight,
Okay, so the question of the
I
fortnight is, can you
contemplated.
name a good emotion? Go ahead. I just want to mention it every time in case people forget or that weren't listening before.
Do you hear me well? Or
Yeah, I can hear you.
the sound is okay?
Yes.
So I contemplated on the emotion of awe, and for example, when I listen to a piece of music, usually piano, for me gets me very emotional. I often find myself deeply moved by music, certain music, and it allows me to experience a profound delight that I cannot quite put into words. As another example, literature, for example, also holds um, immense transformative like power for me, and all these examples um, are very specific to my own sense of how I interpret wonder, things that invite that emotion in myself, the emotion of awe. So each time I have an experience with those kind of instances, in the case of specifically in music and literature, I have even goosebump inducing experience. Sometimes it happens. I have goosebumps, and then I know that is a specific, very thing that touches me in a profound way. And when those kind of instances happen, I tend to quiet the ego for a while and just be in the moment and appreciate either the music or the pages of the book. And those kind of examples serve as a way for me to relinquish the ego, quiet, and to just be present and in the sense of understanding universal beauty, if I can call it universal, because I think beauty is also something that involves subjectivity, and so each person interprets an awe-inspiring moment differently, and different things inspire different reactions. But ultimately, I think for each of us, it can lead us to be more present each time we have a kind of experience like that. And I think it's that those are the main points from my reflection on a good emotion. what a good emotion I can mention.
Well, thank you very much for
I
doing
think
that
that
work and for doing that exploration. Very, very valuable. So I'm taking from your answer the emotion of awe, right? Of wonder.
yes.
And so that's your answer. So, okay. So I will hold on to that. I'm noting it. And at the end,
Okay.
when it's this week, as you might know, it's the time for me to give my answer to the question of the
Answer.
fortnight. And so I'm going to wait until then to respond to you, because my answer pretty much would be the response to you, or not even a response, just like a talking about of the same issue. And so I very much noted that. Okay, just wait till the end, and I have
Okay.
something to say about that. And so, but that's great. I love that you brought on wonder up, which is, of course, a great delight to human beings, and it's something we are uniquely able to experience, right? I don't know, and I don't want to make any assumptions or narratives about how animals experience that or don't, or to what degree. But certainly, because of our ability to literally think about other galaxies, right? Things we hardly can even see, and maybe not even see. Certainly, animals can't do that, and so I wonder if there are at least certain things we wonder about that no other animal has ever wondered about, right? And so, and wonder also very much in the sense of awe, of course, when we see something, we say, "Wow." Right? That is so amazing, and I'm so grateful that that exists. I'm just speechless that that exists, or whatever it is, right? Yeah. So that's a great answer, and that's noted. Thank you very much. And I will respond to it at the end, like I said. Is there anything else you wanted to share, say, or ask?
I think no. Concerning the question, it was that main point. Yeah.
Okay. Excellent. Then I will move you back to the audience for now. And
Okay. Thank you.
thank you. And once again, we are very grateful to that, because I think you once again just spoke the mind of a lot of people. What about wonder? What about awe, right? What about those things? And so we'll talk about that. And I will invite our next speaker.
So on similar themes, actually, I've been thinking as the discussion has been happening. I've been thinking a lot about this entire week. It sort of, I was thinking about this thing about consumption, or sort of just being distracted, that the thing that we were talking about. And I wanted to say some things and ask some things, maybe. So here's what I have come up to. I started with thinking how social media, is very consuming, and then I questioned myself that, was it true that before social media there was no mindless consumption? I mean, is it something that has happened in the last few years only, or is it something that is universal, like through time? I'm glad that I've had certain experiences that have helped me to sort of see it through. So there was one experience a couple years ago where I decided to give up social media entirely and instead pick up books. And I did that. And I picked up, at that time, I had never read a book, I guess. That was a couple of years ago. I never read many, besides the textbooks, I've not read books. So I picked up Harry Potter besides any other book I could have picked. And my entire month, that month, I was reading full day. Like it is a very addictive book for those who have read it. It is a very addictive book, and I just kept on reading it. My days passed by, and I'm not like, this. It was almost or even more addictive than that. For 2-3 weeks, I completed the entire 7-book series in 2 to 3 weeks, and the movies. So that was quite and I was not sleeping well. I was not eating well. And so I asked myself, is that what I'm looking forward to? Is that what I want? Is that what you think is, being aware, living properly? And I can obviously see that that's not true. So eventually, in writings, I did find out that the trouble is not, one particular social media or something like that. The trouble is mindless consumption. When I start consuming without knowing why am I doing that, and then it kind of continues on and just has no end to it, kind of thing. So I did start. So that's the direction I am thinking in. That whether it is even something that is good for us. I mean, technically good for us. It can still sort of turn into a mindless consumption if we don't know why we are doing that. So, say for example, when I want to read, some book on philosophy is very consuming also, because sometimes you sit down and you want to sort of read or write, and you can go hours. Sometimes hours go by, and you don't really kind of realize that this much time has gone by. It's very, but the consumption, but the idea that I'm sitting there in order to get to know myself better or to resolve some paradox, some contradiction. And there's no expectation, but there's still like, okay, I don't know, for some reason, once I'm done with, sitting hours with, spending hours on philosophy sometimes, like it doesn't happen every day, but when it happens, I'm not, uh, you know, I feel better, I guess. Again, that's maybe the voice of the ego. Thinking about it through the discussion, that I was about to say the word guilt, that I don't feel guilty as I feel after social media or gaming or something like that. So yeah, that has been a thought in my mind, and it is something that I've been thinking about for some time, and definitely the thing that you know none of so this is a change that has happened, reading and writing on philosophy in whatever ways, is that instead of doing it for some outcome, I think that was also something that came up. uh, Instead of doing it for some outcome, I try to do it for the process itself. Just okay, let's try to participate in the process and see where that goes. um, Yeah, I wanted to share that, and I thought that it is very relevant with the discussion, and wanted to know what do you think about that? Do you think uh, it's a step in the right direction? Well, I mean, again, I want to ask from your experience again. Yeah.
Well, yeah, thank you for sharing that. First of all, that's a very important distinction to make, because we assign, again, it's just a narrative, it's just an ego thing. We assign value to certain activities, certain values to certain activities, and certain other values to other activities. And we say, oh, the more I do this, the better, because I assigned it good value. And the more I do this, the bad I am off, because this is the best. So we say that about social media. The more you do social media, the worse, the more mind numbing it is, etc. And the more you read a book or whatever else it is, the more it will be good for you. It's not true. Right? Rather, it's the nature of how you're doing something and why you're doing something. And of course, this is just my opinion. But in my opinion, there's absolutely no value to reading if it is not for the active exploration of something that you're dealing with, right? And when I say something you're dealing with, I'm not talking about a breakup or something. So although it applies to that too, of course, because the intention is I'm working on things. I'm trying to understand something. And what I'm trying to understand, ideally, should not be something trivial, but the highest thing I can even think of. And so reading in the service of that is not only a truly bettering experience, but it is also a very delightful experience, right? Vice versa, if you were to use social media in that sense, like if you said, what I'm dealing with right now these days with this particular issue, there's no book on that, or that's not how I must go about this. I know that I must go on this or that platform and seek out, because that's where those people are. And so I'm trying to figure out, and I need something from them. I need them to say this one thing or another. And so then all of a sudden, your use of social media is made righteous. And vice versa, once again, as you experience with, in this case, Harry Potter, just reading for the sake of reading and then going and grabbing something like Harry Potter, there's no exploration happening. There's no value being added. You're just doing an action because you've assigned it a certain value, but there's no intention behind it. No true intention. There's no exploration behind it. Right. And what I find with these kinds of activities that are conducted out of the right spirit, out of the right interest, out of the right intention, is that time doesn't factor into it. In other words, I often find myself actively pursuing some idea, some thought, some exploration. And so I read a book because it holds the promise of maybe furthering me in that exploration. And sometimes it really delivers. And all I am able to do is read a page or two. Let's say I wake up in the morning, which is when I usually read, and I grab a book and I start reading it, and it's been maybe a page, 2 page, 3 pages, and I have to stop because I'm reading something that I've been looking for this, and this is opening my eyes, and it's shattering so many beliefs, and it's replacing them, and my whole world is upside down right now just from that which I've just read, which I've just discovered. And so I become overwhelmed in a good sense, where I say, wow, take me, right? It's just like, I want to be in this. And a page, a 2 page, a paragraph can do that. And so how long have I read then? I don't care. It's been 8 minutes. I don't care. But let's say the book is giving it to me slowly, and I can see it's happening and it's going somewhere. And it's an 800-page book. And I don't want to put it down because while I am not being overwhelmed, I am still seeing that it's going to lead somewhere, or at least I have the strong suspicion. And so I'm captured by that maybe that day. And that's rare, but again, so what does it matter if I read for 5 hours that day, or for 5 minutes that day, or not at all, or instead of reading, I did that? It's the intention. It's becoming overwhelmed like that. If you're not constantly, but you have a tendency in your life, it's a thing in your life, that the things you read, the discussions you have, the things you listen to overwhelm you in this good sense, where you say, wow, I can't believe this person just said this. I can't believe this person just wrote this 2,000 years ago and I'm just reading it. I can't believe that this person on this platform called Discord in the Accepting the Universe, this little server, said something that I've been thinking about for years now, and I never heard anyone else say it. What does it matter where you are, what you're doing? It's the nature, the intention behind it. And that nature, that intention is fully up to you. So again, which is relevant to our discussions today overall, if you don't get to read, let's say you lose your eyesight or whatever, you're traveling for a long time, you don't have access to books, you don't like using a Kindle, I mean, whatever it is, right? For some reason, that activity that generally aids you in this exploration is not available to you. Does this now make you a worse person? No. That same intention, that same awareness, that same interest in being alive, because that overwhelmness is one of the greatest delights a human being can experience. Say, wow, I just connected with someone 2,000 years ago, 200 years ago, or contemporary, on an idea that is timeless and universal. That's an amazing experience. And in my opinion, the best way to get that is through books, but who knows? It depends on the thing. It depends on what you're exploring. But as long as that's the nature and attitude of your exploration, who cares how long you do what? It doesn't factor in. It simply doesn't factor in the time, the format, the day and location. It does not factor in. It just has nothing to do with it, plain and simple. And so, I would encourage all of you to think about that. Reading is not reading, and social media is not social media, and every other thing is not what it is. It all depends on the approach. It all depends on the nature of you, not the thing you're doing, but you. And there's so many people. I don't want to say this. I don't want to judge. I'm truly not judging, but it might sound like that. There's a bookshop that opened a few months ago, maybe a year ago, I don't know, around my neighborhood. And well, first I saw a line. The line was like 3-4 blocks long of people standing and they're trying to get to this. There's an opening, right? So they're in line to get in there, and I'm like, what is this? And I saw it said something books. I was like, wow, a bookstore opening. There's a line like 5 blocks long. That's kind of amazing. And so I looked it up, and the bookstore is entirely centered around erotic novels, romance novels. And so what they're lining up for 5 blocks has nothing to do with that expiration. They're there for books, and they stayed up all night to be first in line to the opening of a bookstore. Yes, but what are they going to find in those books other than quite literally cheap thrills and an idolization of vices and just plain and simple emptiness, void. So that reading has nothing to do with that other reading. And I would not commend someone for sitting in line for something like that, as well as I wouldn't shame anyone, which we shouldn't do anyway. I'm just saying whatever the opposite of that is, that they're on social media for so many hours a day. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know the nature of how they're approaching it. Maybe that is their exploration. Maybe that's what they need to do, and they know that. And so, as with everything else, as in everything else, look at your own self and make sure your intention is right. And again, do whatever reading, whatever discussion, whatever social media, whatever you need to do, climb a mountain to to gain the ability to make sure that your intention is right. Whatever you need to do that. Whatever you think you need to do that. And if you do come to a point where you can say, I am a person who can make sure that their intention is right, by my own parameters, of course. And once you reach that point of being able to say, I am aware of my intention is right, then have no fear. If that intention leads you to social media, fine. If it leads you to Play-Doh, fine. If it leads you to let go of all reading, of all social media, of all activities, and go out and do something with nature, with animals, or not, or whatever it is. Go out on the sea, on a ship. I don't know. Whatever it is, you can follow it, and you don't need to look back and say, no, but it is shunned to this or that. Or I used to be such a big reader and so academic and so intellectual and so smart. And now I'm doing something that is considered not at all intellectual. So what? Do you know why you're doing it? Yes. Is your reason to do it right? Yes. It's over. Name one other thing that's relevant after that. There's nothing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Even though it's in a different direction than I was thinking, but yeah, but it does make me think now what you said, that does that leave no room for things besides philosophy, besides exploration of life and things such as that, because yes, it can be consuming to to read novels, but it can also it is also sometimes so I've read certain novels. Like I read a novel, it was such a pain. It's called The Lord of the Flies. It was such a pain to get through. But I was happy that I got through it. Like I was really happy because in the end, I realized, okay, this is what it's about. And then I realized, oh, this is great. And then I was able to appreciate the hard work I had put in to get through that. It's such a, I seriously hated going through it because it's very dense now. I found it very dense at that time, at least. So does it not actually remove the chances of exploration instead of increasing it?
What removes the chances of exploration rather than decreasing it?
Like for example, if I have set my intentions to, you know, fix a certain, like I find something that I think is troublesome or is problematic or whatever, something I want to do something about, or something I'm looking to explore or whatever that is. So when I start exploring, I will always have to have a starting point. But could there be no reading where I don't even know the starting point? I just do it for the sake of it and find in the process that, okay, this is something worth exploring. You get the point?
Well, I think we're saying the same thing. Exploration doesn't have to be where you have a specific goal in mind and you're very clear on your objective. And so you're doing very methodically those steps to reach that. No, sometimes exploration is, I have no idea what I'm exploring here or if I'm exploring anything currently, but something is calling me, something is drawing me. And that might include reading The Lord of the Flies and not know why I want to do it or not know why I appreciate having done it. It can include all of that. It's all part of the process. We don't know how big the picture is, right? We don't see the picture most of the time. We don't see the big picture. And that's okay. That's what we're trying to gain the vision of. So we're looking at the smaller parts first. And so that's totally fine. That might be part of that whatever you're exploring. Like I said, you don't need to necessarily always know exactly what you're exploring. As long as you have this sort of nature in you of saying, I love life, I love the world, I love the universe, and I'm just being with it. And the way you be with it is, you can go look outside and look at a leaf. If that's what you're so inclined to do. We just made a video on something like that, right? Like Da Vinci looking at trees and realizing the rule, the law in it. Now, what does that have to do with anything, you might ask? How did that help anything? Maybe it helped him paint trees better, or maybe he realized it while painting trees. I don't know. How does that fit into anything? I don't know. But, and maybe he didn't know either, but he had the intent. He was looking at the world in that way. And so he was open either to a new exploration or to just random things adding to his exploration without him even knowing. It's a general attitude, right? He had that attitude. He was not closed off. He didn't say, that's probably useless. He said, well, I don't know if this will help in any exploration of mine, but I don't get to say it's useless either. How do I know? Maybe it's not. And so it's about that attitude. And that includes that too, very much. I realize we talked about, exploration as a very methodical, precise, clear thing, but no. I think most of the time, actually, exploration is very much so not precise, or you don't know at all, but you do feel the calling, don't you? You do feel something is drawing you to itself. And again, you don't know what that is. You don't know how far it is. You don't know if it's even real or whatever, but something is calling you. And so just even to remain open to that without even actively doing anything is also part of that exploration. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So yeah, I think we're saying the same thing. It's just different parts of the same thing, I think, of the same attitude, of the same intention. So anything else you want to share or ask or whatever?
No, that was it. Thank you.
Okay. Do you have an answer to the question of the fortnight? You don't have to. I'm just asking.
If I can say right now, then so I did say something last week, and post that. I mean, so for me, it was this that in terms of good emotions, um, I'm not so. Here's what I feel, and this is something I mentioned. I am on the same lines like last week, which is this that emotions, keep me in the same loop of going up or down. Uh, if and that can never be good. You know, so the peace or joy, whatever word you use for it, it's basically the same. Like you can say joy or you can say peace. What do you mean by that? And you will think that, a moment where you were joyful was a moment where you were also peaceful. And at that time, you were also in awe. And it could be very small things. Like, many years ago, I had this very small moment. I don't know what was going on. And I was back home at my mother's place, parents' place, and I was doing the dishes for what I can do. And I don't like doing the dishes, obviously. But I mean, not obviously, but I don't like doing the dishes, anyways. And at some point, I was like, um, it was it was in the middle, it was in the noon sometime that I was doing it. And after them, I was just putting back the things and whatever. And it was at some point I had this um, really peaceful, really joy. I don't know, very very good moment. It still stuck by. That's why I can talk about it right now. There's so many moments, and I was very much in awe at while I was looking at outside and I was looking at the trees. And I was very happy. I was very much in the moment for a very brief moment. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, minute passed, and then other things took over, and obviously I forgot about it. I forgot about not didn't forget about it, but otherwise I wouldn't be talking about it. But it kind of happened, right? And it has happened like every now and then here and there. So that, what do I call it? Was I feeling happy? Not like use the word what you want, what one wants to, but I cannot use an emotion for it. Really, it's on a different plane in my. That's how I see it. Like this x-axis, y-axis. There's a lot of things going on. This is z-axis. It's different. It's entirely different, I guess. Uh, and so yeah, that's pretty much how I see it. And what I was saying about the feeling of peace and joy, what do I call that moment? Peaceful moment or joyful moment, or awful like a moment where I felt awe for a good amount of time. I don't know. I mean, call it whatever because all of them is right, um, but none of them quite actually captures it. So um, so yeah, I believe emotions are basically indifferent. Uh, they are not good or bad. They are, and probably indicators. It's the best that we can say about them. And what we associate happiness with uh, is um, is on a different plane altogether. I guess. Uh, yeah. So that's all I have.
No, that's amazing. Thank you so much. And you're right. It has something to do with peace, right? Any so-called good emotion would have to increase our peace, not decrease our peace, right? And so
Yes.
it definitely has something to do with that. And I do. You pretty much said it without saying it that maybe peace is our guiding light in that, where we can discern a so-called good emotion from a so-called bad emotion by the way that it increases or decreases our peace. And so certainly a good emotion would have to be something that increases our peace, or at the very least does not decrease it, right? And so that's very interesting. And you mentioned, yeah.
Please go on. We'll see.
Sorry, go ahead.
Please complete your sentence. Please complete your sentence, then I'll.
Yeah, I'm just saying it would have to be something that increases our joy, or at least does not decrease it. And you mentioned the word joy, which I am adding to the list of responses, just like the speaker before said, awe and wonder. Joy is certainly another word that comes to mind as a potential good emotion. So I'm adding that to the list as well, because those are the only two I can think of also.
So one thing that you said I want to maybe contest is that the fact that any good emotion would be one which increases our peace. My understanding is, or maybe our understanding of emotions is different, but my understanding was, how can emotions increase peace? Can they? If any. Like,
Well,
I can.
in my opinion, they can't increase it, but they certainly can decrease it. Anger, anyone who's angry is not at peace. Anyone who's afraid is not at peace. Anyone who's jealous, vengeful, envious, disappointed, bitter, resentful, is not at peace. And so emotions certainly can decrease your peace, and in fact, take you out of it altogether. So a so-called good emotion, naturally, would have to be something that at least leaves the peace alone, or even increases it, right?
So in the set theory, we learn there is a set called null set, right? So we can define an emotion as a null emotion. So the best emotion, the best ever possible emotion would be a null emotion, no emotion in that sense.
Right. Or but even you could argue that the if it is an emotion, the emotion of awe and wonder is something that increases your peace, because you feel more at one with your environment, because you're so amazed by it and you feel in touch with it, and it's so complex and beautiful to you that it makes you feel more connected, more lively, more in touch with it. And so I could see that increasing your peace, if that's the case, if awe is an emotion, if joy is an emotion. But you're right also in the sense that, yeah, it doesn't feel right that an emotion could ever increase peace, because peace is just there, right? Peace is the underlying thing of everything, and peace is just solid as a rock. And if you're in peace, there's really not so much a concept as more peace, less peace. So, yeah, an emotion, the best it could be, I guess, is something that at least doesn't disturb peace. But would we call that good? Yeah, it would have to somehow increase peace, right? And I don't see any emotion really, truly increasing peace. I mean, you can increase maybe your awareness of it. Again, by bringing you in touch with the amazingness of peace. But I don't think it certainly cannot make peace better or worse. Peace is what it is. It's unchanging and it's rock solid, like we said. And so, yeah, that's the question, right?
Yeah, so when you said that, all or such things bring more peace, I came to think that, isn't it? I guess again the chicken question, isn't it the peace that brought me to that awareness of, because the tree was always there, the weather is always there, and it's there for so many people. And if it is because of the weather and the tree and all those nice things, then shouldn't everybody be in that peace? But I can bet you on this one. I mean, you can go to the most luxurious apartment, most luxurious places, and the people will be not even, noticing that. I know that. Okay? That is not like. I mean, I think everyone knows that because there's too many, of office commitments and this commitment and that commitment, whatever. So we're not even looking at it. So peace brought me there, and it didn't even take the credit for it. It said, okay, some other emotion took the credit for it. I think it just, yeah, okay, then, that's fine. Whatever you attribute it to, it's fine. So I guess that's how I look at it. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. I really appreciate it. And that's an excellent, actually, segue to my answer to the question of the fortnight. And so, with that, just so we don't leave that segue, I'm going to put you back to the audience real quick with deep gratitude, really, for the question and the sharing you brought here and gave to all of us, as well as specifically your answer to the question of the fortnight, because let's deal with this. I mean, are emotions something we should have or not? What is it? Because we're seeing the eternal and universal existence of, what seems to be a law, which we just discussed, which in our weekly readings of Seneca was just also talking about, I noticed, the law that, and this is my words, all that is truly good is wholly good. In other words, all that is really good is completely good. There's no bad to it. And so if we are to say that emotions are good, then they should be wholly good. The universe, if you notice, in everything else that is good, never asks us to swallow poison along with nutrients. It doesn't happen, right? In the realm of ideas, for example, what's a good? What's genuinely, without a doubt, a good? Justice. Is there even a speck of bad within that good of justice? Justice is truly good, and it is wholly good. And so we all know, and we complain all the time. Anger harasses me. Fear harasses me. My jealousy does not leave me alone. My greed, my pride, my ambition that constantly wants more of me, and I'm so tired and I'm so depleted and I'm so depressed. Anyone who's angry cannot be at peace. Anyone who is in any of these states, which is simply a state they do not want to be in, is not at peace. No one who does not want to be the way they currently are is at peace. Is there anything more obvious than that? And so if anger not only decrease, but make it impossible to be at peace, if fear, greed, ambition, pride, envy, vengeance, all these things that plague us every day, constantly, make it impossible for us to be in a state, and it is a state, of peace, then why don't we let go of them? Right? If we would let go of them, we would have peace. Oh, but no, because there are good emotions too. And if you let go the category, the basket of emotions, then you'll let go of all those good emotions that make life worth living. And so I ask, what is one good emotion? One that comes into mind one way or another, and really the only one ultimately, is joy or a sense of the feeling of awe, of amazement, of wonder. I would like you to consider this. Joy, awe, amazement, and any kind of true delight that is not harmful, that is beautiful. True joy is nothing other than approval. You see right being done in the world and you rejoice in it because you approve of it. You see two people treating each other fairly and with love and with understanding and with awareness and with justice, that thing which is truly good and wholly good. And you approve of seeing that. You approve of it. And that's why that state of approval we often say is joy. We see a flourishing forest and the amazing species of birds in it. We say, wow, how is this life on this tiny piece of land that is floating in space among billions of not only other planets, but solar system and galaxies? In this little place, how was life ever possible? Yet it is. The evidence is right here in all its manifold beauty. And we call that awe, and we call that wonder. But what it really is approval. We love seeing right things in the world. We love seeing truth, justice, goodness, beauty in the world. And when we see it, we approve of it. And when we approve of it, we call that state of being joy. And further, what is approval based on? What is the nature of approval? Is its nature of emotion? Or is it of reason? Joy comes from approval, and approval comes from reason. To disapprove is to resent. To disapprove is to hate. To disapprove is to get angry. To disapprove is to be bitter. And disapproval in that extreme has nothing to do with reason. Because when reason disapproves of something, it does not hate. It does not become angry. It does not become vengeful and envious and resentful and bitter and even violent. Reason does not think of disapproval. Reason is of approval. And any so-called good emotion that we experience comes solely and is in fact itself nothing other than reason seeing what is right and rejoicing in it. And that's not an emotion. That is your human nature being in the exact state that it is intended and of its nature to be, aware of reason, reasoned, and in constant approval of what is right. And every so-called bad emotion is really just emotion, period. Period. There's nothing good about emotion. And as you can see, everything that was so-called good about emotion in the common understanding, we see now is not of emotion, is of something else. So we're not throwing anything away that is good, not a single bit. In fact, the better you understand so-called bad emotions, the better you're off. The better you understand that the so-called good emotions are not really of the nature and being of emotion at all, but that they're instead of the reason, of the nature of reason and awareness. That's what allows you to give yourself to them even more. Rejoice even more. You know now how to. You will not chase blind greed or hateful ambition anymore to rejoice in your life. This is why people become greedy, become envious, become ambitious, become proud, because they're chasing joy. They're chasing wonder. They're chasing to rejoice. And they think that is how to do it. So by knowing that emotion cannot give this to you, you will find a way to rejoice. You will find joy and awe and wonder in your life even more. And in fact, for the first time, it will be real and full and complete and only begetting more of itself. Greed, ambition, even anger, hate, achieves nothing but a momentary, cheap thrill. And that's why so many people chase bodily pleasures, because they're led by lust, because lust promises them joy, happiness. But instead, what it is it's a thrill. And to give in to lust or ambition or greed and also anger and hatred is to give into thrill seeking. And someone who seeks thrills is never at peace, momentarily rejoices, and then begins a downward spiral and tries to recover once again from that in the same way. And it's up and down and up and down and up and down. And the highest high is never as high as peace can give, and the lowest low is horrific. Emotion cannot get you to peace. Emotion is what keeping you from peace. And when you truly give yourself to reason, to awareness, which is where love is not an emotion. Love is of reason. When you give yourself to truth, which is clearly of reason rather than of emotion, when you give yourself to justice, to goodness, to beauty, which are all of reason, all of awareness, not of emotion, that's when you have peace. And that's when you approve of these things. When you give yourself to truth, you live in truth. When you give yourself to justice, you live according to justice. In other words, you say and do what is right, no matter what may come. Then you will rejoice in your own attitude. I was going to say actions, not even actions, in your own direction towards justice, which no one can take from you. No one can align you more or less with truth, love, beauty, goodness, justice, or less. They cannot change your alignment. Only you can do that. And every time you align yourself a bit more, you rejoice. Every time you realize that you have perfectly aligned yourself, there's no more aligning to do, you rejoice. And with that attitude, just like Da Vinci, who walked by the same types of trees that we walk by every day, and sees a whole new law and a new rule in it, that the branches, if they would be put together, would equal the trunk of the tree before the branches begin and would make a uniform, solid trunk. To be able to see that is to have aligned oneself with truth and beauty and goodness, and to be open to all the awe and wonder and joy in the world. To not be plagued by anger, by hate, by vengeance, by jealousy, by envy, by strife. And to be open for once and for all to joy, to awe, to wonder. That's where reason gets you, and that's what emotions take you out of. And when I say emotions, it's such an overused word. I mean passions. What people normally would call extreme emotions. A little bit of anger, a little bit of resentment is good. It gets you to do things. It motivates you. But when it becomes hate, only then is it a problem. Then it's a passion. Then it's extreme. No. If anger was good, it would be wholly good. There's nothing good about anger. Every single thing that you can do with anger, you can do without anger. Every single thing you can do with fear, you can do without fear. And in fact, you can do it even better because you won't have blind emotion guiding you, but clear reason. Remember, everything that is truly good is wholly good. And anything that does not meet that criteria, it seems, I'm still exploring this myself, and let's please explore it together. This is where our true advantage in this community lies, if we do this together and we point things out to each other. But it seems to be that this is the major law of the universe. Everything that is truly good is wholly good. And so safely, it seems, if this is true, and again, let's prove it or disprove it all together, it seems that everything that is bad you can let go of. You do not need to keep it around. You do not need to suffer for it. You do not need to sacrifice to it in order to get the benefits that you think it also contains. It doesn't. It's no good. No, that is truly good is wholly good. Entirely good. So that's my particular take on the question of the fortnight. And as you know, we have one more week now to go, and we're still going to continue doing this, but after having already gathered some answers to this question, we are now entering the second week, in which, with these answers from all these different people in mind, we continue to explore the issue. And then next week, we talk about what that brought us to. New insights or strengthening of what we already thought, or weakening of what we already thought, and changing our minds, so to speak. Whatever it may be. That's what we'll share next week. And so I thank you, as always, for being here. Amazing discussion, as always. Surprised, not surprised that it was like that. And so let's keep thinking about this, and let's see if it's true that everything that is truly good is wholly good. And I very much appreciate you spending your time right here like this, when you could have been doing so many other things, such as waiting in line for a romance novel bookstore opening, or gossiping about other people, or relishing in the misery of others, or wishing a lot of people that they experience harm so that they get finally what they deserve. You could have been doing so many other things in this time. Instead, you chose to spend it here. And I appreciate that. And this is why I think we're all kin here, because rather than doing those things, which most people do most of the time, we are here doing this. And thank you for that. Thank you for being kin, and thank you for being fellows in this exploration of timeless and universal truths.